Right now, across 3 NFL cities, a combined $10 billion or more is being committed to build new football stadiums. Billions in taxpayer money is being redirected to help some of the wealthiest team owners on the planet construct their next venues. The sales pitch the team, the league, and the city will use is always the same. Spending taxpayer money on a new stadium will lead to increases in jobs, economic growth, and a transformed community. But what does the research actually say? And what's really happening in places like Cleveland, Chicago, and Kansas City? Let's break it down. When a professional sports team asks a city or state for public money, the argument is almost always built on economic impact.
We're building Ohio. It's going to be huge economically.
And the economic benefit speaks for itself. Over $4 billion in economic activity, biggest economic win we'll ever have in the state of Kansas.
Team owners and their consultants commissioned studies projecting thousands of new jobs, billions in economic activity, and a flood of new tax revenue that will more than pay for the investment. It sounds compelling, and for decades, it's been enough to convince lawmakers to write enormous checks. But here's what those projections almost never account for: the substitution effect. That's the economic principle that says the money fans spend in a stadium isn't new money falling from the sky. It's money those people would have spent somewhere else in the local economy, at restaurants, movie theaters, bowling alleys, even concerts. A stadium doesn't create new spending, it redirects it. And in many cases, it redirects it straight into the pockets of a billionaire team owner. Economists have been studying this question for over 30 years, and the findings are remarkably consistent. A landmark 2022 survey by 3 former presidents of the North American Association of Sports Economists, J.C. Bradbury, Dennis Coates, and Brad Humphreys, reviewed decades of peer-reviewed research and concluded that the research was clear. The answer was settled. They wrote that additional research would only be confirming what is already known to researchers in the field. The scale, they said, is tipped so heavily against the desirability of stadium projects for improving resident welfare that further study was unlikely to change anything. That's not a split opinion, that's a consensus. A 2005 survey of American Economic Association members found that 85% agreed that state and local governments should eliminate subsidies to professional sports franchises. A 2017 University of Chicago panel of economic experts found that 80% agreed stadium subsidies likely cost taxpayers more than the local economic benefits they generated. As Bradbury put it bluntly, when you ask economists if we should fund sports stadiums, they can't say no fast enough. And yet, the deals keep getting bigger. Let's start in Cleveland, where the Browns Stadium saga has become one of the most contentious public subsidy battles in the country.
Trend to make these stadiums a part of the community and drive economic activity in those communities.
Mayor Justin Bibb gave a statement referring to the Brook Park plan as a scheme that will lead to an increase in taxes.
They played nice today. Why wouldn't they? They're getting what they want.
What is this thing?
Oh, it's something really stupid out in Brook Park that they're trying to get everybody excited about, the stadium no longer being in downtown Cleveland.
The Browns have played on Cleveland's lakefront since their return to the NFL in 1999. A return, by the way, that only happened because Art Modell's original departure to Baltimore in 1995 was so traumatic, it led Ohio to pass the Modell Law, designed to prevent teams from abandoning cities that publicly funded their stadiums. Fast forward to 2024, the Haslam family, which owns the Browns, began publicly weighing whether to renovate the existing Huntington Bank field or build something entirely new. Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb offered $461 million toward a billion-dollar renovation. The Haslams said no thanks. Instead, they announced plans for a brand new dome stadium in Brook Park, a suburb southeast of downtown Cleveland. The estimated price tag, $2.4 billion initially, which has since climbed to roughly $2.6 billion. In the summer of 2025, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine signed a state budget that included $600 million earmarked for the project. But the funding source raised eyebrows across the state. The money was pulled from Ohio's unclaimed funds account, a pool of roughly $4.8 billion belonging to private citizens. The funds come from dormant bank accounts, uncashed checks, forgotten utility deposits, To make it work, the legislature imposed a 10-year deadline for Ohioans to claim that money. Lawsuits followed immediately, and meanwhile, the state also quietly amended the Model Law so it only applies to teams leaving Ohio entirely, effectively clearing the Browns to relocate within the state without public approval. The Haslams have since increased their personal contribution to $1.75 billion, about 67.5% of the total. But the project still relies on that $600 million from the state, plus hundreds of millions more from Brook Park through local income taxes and a proposed increase of the county sin tax. So what exactly is a sin tax? In public finance, a sin tax is a tax levied on specific goods that society deems harmful or undesirable, most commonly alcohol and tobacco. The official government argument is that these taxes serve a dual purpose. They discourage unhealthy behaviors while raising revenue to offset the public health costs those behaviors create. But in Cuyahoga County, the sin tax has a completely different history. It isn't funding public health campaigns or addiction treatment. It is the literal foundation of a city's professional sports infrastructure. Voters first approved the countywide sin tax back in 1990 to build the downtown Gateway Sports Complex for the Cavs and the Guardians. In 1995, they extended it to help build the Browns' current stadium, and in 2014, voters re-upped it yet again just to pay for ongoing repairs at all three facilities. For over 30 years, every time a local resident bought a 6-pack of beer or a pack of cigarettes, a portion of that cash went straight to the stadiums. But those older stadium repair funds are drying up, and the scale of the Browns' new $2.6 billion Brook Park project has blown right past what the current tax can support. To close the funding gap, local leaders have floated a massive expansion, tripling the county's sin tax and extending it well past its current 2034 expiration date. What does a tripling of the tax actually mean for regular consumers? According to county proposals and polling metrics, the tax on a pack of cigarettes would skyrocket from 50 cents to $1.50. The cost of beer would jump by about 5 cents. Now, 5 cents on a beer or $1 on a pack of smokes might sound like pocket change to a billionaire team owner, but economists point out a glaring issue. Sin taxes are notoriously regressive. They take a significantly large percentage of income from lower income and marginalized populations who disproportionately bear the financial burden of these flat rate increases. The money allocated from everyday consumers in Cuyahoga County is now at the center of a fierce political tug-of-war. The sin tax was palatable because the money stayed downtown to support publicly owned municipal assets. But as the Haslam brothers seek funding to build a new privately owned stadium, this money would fund private equity for billionaire owners. Local officials have loudly opposed using general county tax money to subsidize a private move for a billion-dollar corporation. Meanwhile, public polling shows that a staggering 61% of local voters oppose the Browns leaving their current stadium, and their appetite for footing the bill through increases in taxes has plummeted if that money leaves the city center. The political friction became so intense that Ohio legislators ultimately blocked the tax hike from moving forward on the ballot for the time being. But the reality remains on the table. To build a roof over a billionaire stadium at Brook Park, the underlying playbook relies on squeezing more money out of the public's everyday habits. The Haslam Sports Group officially broke ground on the newly named Huntington Bank Field, locked into a hard timeline aimed at opening the 67,500-seat dome venue in time for the 2029 NFL season. But while the bulldozers are actively moving nearly 2 million cubic yards of dirt, the financial and political scaffolding under the project is still incredibly shaky. The Browns have pivoted to a new legal maneuver. They are currently pushing Brook Park to create a special community authority to take public ownership of the venue and lease it back to the team. The goal? To bypass standard sales taxes on construction materials, which would hand the franchise somewhere in the region of an extra $100 million in savings. The project is officially real and the ground has been broken, but as the team digs its literal foundation, they are still digging around for the public dollars needed to pay for it. Then there's the Chicago Bears, where the stadium search has turned into a multi-state soap opera. The Bears have played at Soldier Field since 1971. It's the oldest active stadium in the NFL, and the team has never owned its own venue. So the McCaskey family has spent years looking for a way to control their own building, and the revenue streams that come with it. In 2023, the Bears purchased the former Arlington International Racecourse in suburban Arlington Heights for $197 million. Then in 2024, they pivoted and unveiled a nearly $5 billion proposal for a new enclosed stadium right next to Soldier Field on Chicago's lakefront. A plan that would require roughly $900 million in public bonds and another $1.5 billion for infrastructure. Illinois Governor J.P. Pritzker called it a bad deal for taxpayers. The state legislature said it would fail miserably if put to a vote. The Bears pivoted again, back to Arlington Heights, where they sought $855 million in public infrastructure funding. But a key bill that would have given the team property tax certainty on the site stalled in the Illinois legislature. Then in early 2026, Indiana entered the picture. Indiana lawmakers authorized a stadium authority in Hammond, just across the state line, backed by taxes on admissions, hotels, restaurants, and tolls. The Bears committed $2 billion of their own money. In return, they'd keep all revenue generated by the stadium and have the option to buy it back in 40 years, after Indiana taxpayers have paid off the construction bonds. On June 5, 2026, the Bears Board of Directors voted to advance the Hammond project. If it goes through, the Bears will play home games outside of Illinois for the first time in their 106-year history. Governor Mike Braun welcomed them to Indiana, calling it a major win for the state. Illinois lawmakers said the door isn't fully closed, but most observers believe Indiana has effectively won a bidding war by offering the Bears a package that Illinois refused to match. So if taxpayers are the ones footing a massive portion of this bill, whether through frozen state funds, local tax breaks, or hiked sin taxes, what is the actual return on investment for the average citizen? If you listen to the political speeches and the team press releases, the answer is always the same: jobs, economic growth, and regional transformation. But let's look at the actual math. First, let's talk about the jobs. A massive stadium project like the ones we see in Chicago and Cleveland do create thousands of construction jobs while the venue is being built. But once the gates open, what happens to the permanent employment? An NFL stadium hosts exactly 8 or 9 regular season home games a year. Throw in a few concerts or monster truck rallies, and you have a building that is actively open and operating maybe 20 to 25 days out of a 365-day year. The vast majority of stadium jobs, concession workers, ticket takers, parking attendants, security, are low wage, part-time, and seasonal. You cannot build a robust, sustainable local economy on 20 days of part-time work. Then there's a broader myth of economic growth. Proponents love to talk about the millions of dollars pouring into the area on game days, but remember the substitution effect we talked about earlier. When a family from the Cleveland or Chicago suburbs spends $300 on tickets, parking, and hot dogs, that isn't brand new money being injected into the economy. It is money they would have spent at a local bowling alley, a neighborhood restaurant, or a movie theater. Instead of multiplying wealth across the community, the public subsidy simply acts as a giant vacuum cleaner, sucking discretionary entertainment dollars out of a local, small business and depositing them directly into revenue streams of a single multi-billion-dollar sports franchise. When you strip away the flashy architectural renderings of a shiny new dome, the economic reality is stark. Taxpayers take on significant amounts of the financial risk. They flip the bill through their everyday purchases, and in return, they get virtually zero net economic growth, no meaningful long-term job creation, and a stadium they still have to buy a ticket just to step inside of. The public isn't investing in an economic engine, they're buying a billionaire a very expensive asset.